Welcome to this installment of the Straight Edge Game Room. Today we're going to be doing an accessory review. Now most of you are familiar with the beloved Gamecube controller, but if you bought the Game Boy Player extension for your Gamecube or you downloaded retro games on your Wii and Wii U, this particular control is not ideal for 2D platforming games. It's not ideal for Game Boy games or NES games or any other 16 or 8-bit video game that you downloaded on your Wii or Wii U. However, there was a solution, the Hori digital controller for the GameCube, but that control is incredibly expensive. Pelican made one as well, but that has also gone up in price. However, this might be a viable, affordable solution. The Cirka digital controller for the GameCube. Let's get into it. So here's the box that it comes in when you buy it brand new, and I figured I may as well put this on the show and talk about it because I'm stuck with it. In any case, it's a very nice controller. It feels real good in your hands. Very comfortable to hold. The buttons are nice and responsive. It's got some grips in the back here, but I must say that the D-pad leaves some to be desired. I'm not saying it's a bad D-pad, but what I'm saying is it's that if you're used to like the Super Nintendo D-pad, it's not as smooth as the D-pad on the Super Nintendo. Compared to that, it feels a little bit rigid and just a little bit jagged. Not terribly uncomfortable, but you gotta press this more decisively than that because your thumb glides on this a lot smoother than it does here. And the gaming historian did a video on the history of the D-pad and its functionality, so check out that video whenever you get a chance. But in short, there's a ball at the end of this which gives it this really, or a half ball, whatever you want to, however you want to describe it, gives it that nice rocking back and forth motion, and it glides really smooth. This, however, it doesn't have that. It has, the best I can describe it, it's like the end of a Phillips head screwdriver that's rounded. So it's not jagged like a pointed Phillips head screwdriver. The edges are rounded, so it crisscrosses like this, but each side is rounded so it could imitate that rocking motion that the ball on this end has. And I can't fault them too much for that because I think they may have done that to avoid legal problems with Nintendo. Nintendo is notorious for taking people to court for the slightest details. So I think to protect their assets, I think they just did it that way to avoid problems with Nintendo. So this has a little bit of weight to it. I know that because I opened them up. But in the heat of the game, the shortcomings of the D-pad are less noticeable. I tried out Glaylancer, a Sega Genesis game, Castlevania The Adventure Rebirth, and Super Mario Bros. 2, the Japanese version, which is also known as the Lost Levels here in the States. And it feels great for those kind of games. I don't have a GameCube, so I don't have a Game Boy player, so I haven't tested this out on any Game Boy Advance games. But with old NES, Sega Genesis games, and 16-bit and 8-bit consoles of that era, you get the gist of how well this control feels. Overall, it's a pretty good controller. Now I will say, I'm a little bit apprehensive of third-party controllers. The reason for that is I've had bad experiences with third-party controllers that are not made by Pelican. That is the only third-party manufacturer that I felt safe with. Like Performance, for example, I've seen them mess up PlayStations. Mad Cat controllers as well, I've seen them make video game consoles glitch out. However, I was cautiously optimistic with this one because I had bought a Sega Saturn controller by this manufacturer and it didn't cause me any issues. But what I will say is when I had the Wii on and I plugged this in while it was on, the screen did black out for just a second, but after that it worked just fine without any problems. I had seen Mad Cat controllers make screens black out when you plug them in, but this only blacked out for just a second, so that's something you got to be cautious with. But however, it hasn't given me too much problems. It's working very good so far. I did open these up and tried a little experiment. I put this D-pad in here, and it is slightly more comfortable with the SNES D-pad. So that might be an option if you get this. You might want to get a D-pad from a broken SNES controller, or 3D print one yourself and replace this D-pad. But some of you might like this D-pad. Just give it a chance, give it a shot, and see how you like it. You might want to just stick with the original D-pad. If you do change the D-pad, do not use an N64 D-pad. The reason for that is because one of these directions is slightly elevated, so an N64 D-pad will not work in this. But overall, it's a pretty good controller. It's very comfortable for games from the 8-bit and the 16-bit era. And I really enjoyed it with Glade Lancer. ABC is relegated to these three right here, but it feels very comfortable, and after a while you don't notice the D-pad shortcomings. So this might be an affordable option if you cannot afford the Hori controller. I know there's other YouTubers out there that will say, oh well, nothing beats the Hori controller, blah 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 blah, you know, oh it's so great. Hey, look, if you can't afford it, don't buy it. You know, if you can, get it. But most of us, we can't afford to buy controllers that are $150. I even seen that controller grow up for over $200. That's ridiculous. So do what's best for you. And if this is what you can afford, give it a shot. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like this sort of content, please hit the like button. And if you have any suggestions for any video game or video game accessory you'd like me to review, please drop it down in the comments below. I'd like to hear from you. Thanks again, and take care of yourselves.